YouTube, welcome back to Artichoke Dip. Thank you for all of the new subscribers. Thanks for the comments. I love it. Thank you very much. Before I start my video, I just want to say don't forget, if you're new, to hit subscribe, like, or leave me a comment, and I'll be more than happy to answer your comments. Some of you have asked me to do a solo RPG. I am working on that, and I want to do that. This week's been a little bit hectic for me. I've had to do a bit of traveling for the new job. And I just recently got back in this evening and decided to show you some of the stuff that I talked about in previous videos and kind of do a show and tell. And I want to talk a little bit more about Mythic and how I use it. And perhaps maybe it'll help you guys. And my last topic I want to talk about is hybrid game systems. Yeah. So, first thing, this is going to be for you sci-fi fanatics out there. Which I'm sure none of you are sci-fi fanatics, right? Yeah. Okay. So I put this game in my cart in my Amazon, and how I do my shopping is I'll find something I like, but if I don't like to pay that price, or maybe I can't afford it at the time, I'll put it in my cart, I'll put it to save later, and I'll check on it every so often. And what winds up happening is 9 times out of 10, the price will just keep coming down. So the first thing I want to show you, when I originally looked at the game, I believe it was like around 45 bucks. And this is months ago. I put it in my cart, and every once in a while I'll check it. Well, it went down to like 22 bucks. I said, sold, $22, that's a great deal. And I don't even think, I'd be honest with you, I could, probably if I was to walk into a game shop and go to purchase this used, I'd probably pay the same amount used instead of getting it new. Now, I have not played the board game yet. I actually received it last night, opened it up, started putting some of the decals on the minis and all that, and then it was time for me to crash because I had to get up early and hit the road pretty early. So, anyways, without further ado, the game system I have to show you is called Abandon. Now, if you're not familiar with it, if you like mechanized warfare combat and you like miniatures, this particular game setup here, even if you don't play the game, will be a steal for you, and I'm going to show you why. The first thing you get for the game board, and as I can show you, I haven't even opened them up yet, is you get these awesome terrain tiles that actually stand up 3D. One is forest, the other one is a city encounter, and I believe the other one is ruins. The other thing you get is a very quality game board. Now, the cool thing about it is this game board can be reused for more than just this game. And it already has the hexes cut into it, as you can see. So, if you're limited on room, you know, to be able to set up your terrain for your solo RPG, and you need a small little game board perhaps to set it up to count off grids, this right here would definitely be your best friend. So you get them great 3D stand-up encounters, you get the cool game board, and with it you get unpainted miniatures. Lots of miniatures. And I mean, they're you know, you got to figure for the price. Now, eventually I will get around to painting these. It's probably going to be a while, but I will. And when I finish them, I'll show you guys. You also get dice. More dice. Now, of course, your standard 10, 6, and 8-sided die. But hey, if you play Dungeons & Dragons, Pathfinder, you know, any role-playing game out there that utilizes a polyhedral dice set, you always need extra dice. And of course it comes with the blank dice that you put the stickers on I put on last night for the game. But if you don't intend on playing the game, you just bought it for the miniatures or something else, you could always recycle the dice for something else. So I wanted to show you that. I'm eager to get into this and actually play a game. It looks pretty interesting. Like I said, you know, besides RPG, and I do enjoy miniatures. I love miniatures. And this looked like a really cool game, and for 20 bucks, I couldn't pass it up. I don't think I'd be able to find this for this price again. And I may be wrong, but for me, just for what you get for 20 bucks, the miniatures alone are worth more than 20 bucks. So, Now, one of the other things I talked about is you sci-fi fanatics out there was there's a miniature game out called X-Wing. I never have purchased it. I would like to. It's a bit pricey, and the problem is I already have thousands of um, fantasy miniatures, and I don't know where I would store them. And that's the problem I'm kind of running into, is I'm kind of running out of room where to store this stuff at. And so I'm kind of being very picky and choosy as to what I purchase now, because it's getting to the point to where something's going to have to give. And I don't think putting an addition on the house is going to sit well for my wife. Unless I can get her into gaming too, then hey, I don't think it's going to happen though. Anyways, for those of you out there, you Star Wars freaks like myself, whether you buy them for miniatures, you buy them to set them on a shelf and look at, or you buy them to play with, hey, to each their own, right? Now, I found these at the dollar store. It was actually a Dollar General, and I bought every single one they had. Now, this is a few months back, but when I looked at them, I couldn't pass them up. I mean, for $1, I mean, no brainer. So these were made by the Hot Wheels, and they come with these cool little stands where they actually do stand up on. They are made out of a very durable plastic. They're pre-painted. If you're doing any type of Star Wars, whether it be RPG or miniatures, or perhaps you're into X-Wing and you want to add some more maybe miniatures just to your miniature collection, because after all, it's a representation on the board, these would be a great fit. And I mean, they're already... You don't have to do anything with them. You just take them out of the box and put them on the board and you're ready to go. And they're very cool. Very, 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 very cool. Now, the TIE Fighters have always been my favorite. I mean, they're just... I don't know. I like the TIE Fighters. I guess it's because, you know, the dark side, the whole thing. But I have to admit that the X-Wing fighters are very cool as well. And they caught my eye so much that I had to get every single one. So, I got all the X-Wing fighters, and I set up a little shelf because I really didn't have anywhere else to put them, so I could set them up and display them. But if you think about it in the standpoint of view as miniatures and gaming, and the one thing I can say about gaming is you, to a certain extent, have to be a bargain shopper. And because you can go broke very quick if, I mean, you know what I'm talking about. You walk into any game store, there's lots of cool stuff and stuff that you would like, but you really got to look at the price. And I found that a lot of times, being very diligent and looking at different online vendors, from RPG Now to Amazon, eBay, what have you out there, and a lot of times you'll find what you're looking for at a bargain price. And you know, if you can get something at a bargain price to help you enjoy your game, enhances your hobby, you save a little bit of money, everybody's happy. Or so I'm happy. So I can't, you know, oh, the one last one, I can't believe I didn't remember to show you this. The Millennium Falcon. Very cool, very detailed. I mean, can you believe that was $1? $1. And I don't know what the original retail price of them was. I couldn't tell you. Alls I know, for $6, sorry, I got $7. $7, I walked out with an entire Star Wars fleet. I can't, hey man, I don't know what the going price of an X-Wing, even starter set for the miniatures runs, but pretty sure it's more than $7. Okay, so I got the board game out of the way. Talked about those really cool Star Wars. They consider them toys. I mean, to me, they're more detailed. They're more or less a decoration piece for me. Or eventually, I will get around to making the Star Wars miniature. Probably game for myself, and that's what I'll use for them. Sit down and write up the stats and everything. But moving on, I want to talk about Mythic a little bit, and I want to talk about how I use Mythic. Mythic, like anything else I've explained before, it's a tool. It's a great tool for solo RPGing, or if you're playing in a group, it works great. And I read through the whole book. Now, am I going to adapt to the Mythic system? Probably not. And the only reason why I say that is because I have D&D, I got Pathfinder, I have Beyond the Supernatural, I have Worlds of Darkness, I have... wow. I really do have an RPG problem. Anyways, and that's to name the few. So for me, I like to utilize the tables for myself, and when I do that. Now, for some of you out there, if you have purchased Mythic and you've gone through it, you know what I'm talking about when I talk about the scenes, the chaos factors, the tables. And for those of you that may have not, I'm going to explain that to you. So I got my Mythic book here, and as you can see, it's getting pretty worn out. I use it a lot. I enjoy it. Got a coffee stain on it. Speaking of which, the secret to happy gaming and a happy life is proper caffeination. Yeah, it's good coffee. So, how in the Mythic book, how they have it set up, they have the fate chart. And I'm going to explain to you how I utilize Mythic for my game systems. So I write up the scenes. And of course, scene 1, how I do it, would be after you rolled your characters and you have your initial story, basically that sets out why your characters are there. What is the reason that brought them together and brought them into this situation? Whether it's high adventure, solving a murder, or perhaps they're just greedy adventurers that want to kick in a goblin's door and raid his house and take all his gold. Hey, I don't know. You know, whatever that is, you write that down. That's scene 1. Now, scene 1 is your story. I don't put a chaos factor to that. That is the opening to your story. And it really, that part of the RPG, it is story writing, because it's you formulating your ideas for this adventure and writing it down on pen and paper for you to reference back to. And scene 2 is when your RPG would actually begin. Scene 2, what I do is I take one 10-sided die, I roll that, I take that number, and then on the bottom, you have your difficulty rank and your chaos on your fate chart. And it's numbered 1 through 10. So the way I literally write it out would be scene 2, chaos factor, we'll say 3. And then I go into my RPG. Whether they're traveling, whatever it is. Now, when I get to that point in the story to where we ask our normal questions, is the door locked? Is the door open? Is this NPC here trying to rob me? Is he not trying to rob me? Is there a trap up ahead? So on and so forth. Anything you would do in an RPG, which you would normally ask a DM. The question you would normally ask your DM, what you do at that point is you take your percentile dice, you roll them, you look at your chaos factor on the bottom of your fate chart, you run it up to your percentage, and you look over and you'll get your answer. And your answer is going to go from impossible to no way, very unlikely, unlikely, a 50-50 chance to somewhat likely, likely, very likely, near a sure thing, and it's got to be. Now, when I get to that point, and that's for your questions when you are in your gaming, you're doing your solo RPG, your characters come to a door. Is the door locked? Is the door trapped? So on and so forth. That's what that fate chart would be for. And that's the way that I utilize it. Now, towards the end of the book, and this is going to be on page 99, they got what's called converting to Mythic. Now, the one thing I love about it is the scaling box. And a lot of games nowadays utilize a percentile system in them. It doesn't matter whether you're playing HARP, which is high adventure role playing, which is all percentage based game. D&D, which is utilized all polyhedral, but they do use percentile, a lot of percentile tables. And if you've never DM'd, you probably don't know, but if you open up a DM guide and you actually look to it, there's quite a few percentile tables in there that are used in D&D. Make a long story short, just about every single RPG system out there uses a percentile table or system in one way or another. Now, Worlds of Darkness works on success, failure, success. It also has it in here, but I'm not going there. Or what they call a silhouetted system. If you're not familiar with what a silhouetted system means, if you see that, silhouetted means they're using D6s only. It's a D6 system. So, good example, Battletech, the old miniature game Battletech utilizes just your standard black and white 6-sided dice. But me, I use on page 99 the scaling box. Now, in the scaling box, when I roll the percentages, it goes through the success and or failure. It starts out at the lowest possible number, which is 0 to 5, being a minuscule, all the way up to 96 to 100% being an awesome. So I use that as the success or the failure when I'm actually doing the RPGs. Now you may be sitting there scratching your head like, what do you mean when you use the... So, and I'm going to explain how I incorporated this in a game, a hybrid game system, which is coming up next. So, you have disabled a trap. You have opened up the door and you have walked into the room. Now, when I walk into the room, if I already know I've set up the solo RPG, I know there's an encounter, I place an encounter in that room, I know it's in there. My characters have disabled the trap. Now, this is all examples now here. And they walk in. I would use this scaling box to roll the percentile for a perception check to see if my character perceives that there's something in that room. Now, if they don't, well, it's going to get ugly. But if they do, they're tipped off. Now, reason why I'm kind of explaining this to you is when I go to do the solo RPG, you'll already know how I'm utilizing Mythic and using it, and it's going to help you guys a lot more see how I do this. But as far as Mythic goes, and I strongly urge you, before I even got Mythic, I made my own binder, and I put my own tables in there, and I already made a basically system for me. And then when I found Mythic, Mythic really helped fine-tune it better to what I was looking for. So I use the fate chart and the conversion tables for actual solo RPGing. When it comes to world building, NPCs, and everything like that, I have my own book, and that's why I really strongly urge for you guys to go out and buy yourself a cheap loose leaf binder, get yourself a little packet of notebook paper, sit down and just start writing it up. And I mean, just you could put on there NPC with your percentage. All your NPCs, motivations, what motivates them, your villages, what time of year is it, is there any festivities going on, what is the crime and punishment, what is the most encountered encounter in that area, is it human, humanoid, monstrous, you know, so on and so forth. And it helps detail it to the way you like to play, because like I said, when it comes to solo RPG, it's all about you. It's not about pleasing a DM or a group. It's all about you and about you having fun. Speaking of that, and so I was sitting here and I was going through a lot of my game systems and thinking of the next video I wanted to make. And I was, you know, I was kind of got to that point like how we kind of all do. It's like D&D, nah. Pathfinder, nah. Beyond the Supernatural, well, kind of cool, but, no. You know, Castles and Crusades, no. Harp, no. You know, and it kind of went on. And I decided, because I've been indulging in a lot of X-Files, I wanted to play a very unique type of game that was, you know, put on the tinfoil hat type of game, the conspiracy theory game. It's wild, it's out of this world. So I was, you know, thinking of a stat system that I would use, and I went back to the 3rd edition Player's Handbook, which is open game licensing, and everything since 3rd edition has been open game licensing. And I'm sure a lot of you guys who are just getting into this are probably into 5th edition. And if you don't know what open game licensing is, if you go to the very beginning of the book and you read it, it'll explain all the legal mumbo jumbo. Basically what it means is you could make any type of supplemental game system or accessory for that product, as long as it adheres to their strict, basically, guidelines to the way that they're set up in the Player's Handbook. It's the best way I can explain it to you. But, you know, with that aside, I shouldn't even mention that open game licensing, just throwing that out. I like the way that 3rd edition did their stats and their saves. It's very simplistic, it really is. So I took that, and I had an old pamphlet, and I can't even remember where I got it from, and it was called GURPS Lite, and I was kind of looking through that, and I liked their advantage and disadvantage tables along with their skills. So I sat down and I wrote up this RPG, and how I utilized it is I used the basic character building attributes, saves, your initiative, AC, HP, your attack bonus, and at that point you would have your melee and your ranged attack. Then I had disadvantage, advantage to the characteristics of the character, and I picked 4 skills. Now, my story starts out in modern time, and where it starts out is there is a scientist, a medic, and a security officer that were up in a lab in Antarctica, and what they were doing is they were researching remains of a prehistoric creature for the government, doing some DNA work. Anyways, bad blizzard moves in, shuts everything down. They're informed to stay indoors and to cease all activity outdoors. Well, they hear a cry for help come from the outside, and the way that I wrote up my scene 1 for my game was they have to follow Protocol 6. Protocol 6 means if anybody's abandoned or if there is a SOS signal, they have to investigate, but they have to investigate as a team, and they have to be armed just in case. So they go out, and the security officer notices in the distance there is a structure that he doesn't remember being there. But it's not that far from the lab that they're at, so they decide to go over and take a look to see what this is. And, you know, could it be a tent that possibly blew over or whatever? Well, it turns out to be this cabin. The cabin door, front door, is locked, and as the security officer happens to look around and glare into the window, he sees a shadow move inside the cabin, and he can see the shadow because the fire's going, and you can see the flickering of the light off the windows inside the cabin. Well, once that happens, a bizarre thing happens. There's a bright light, and as the light diminishes and their eyes become adjusted to their surroundings, at that point, they notice they're no longer in the Arctic. They're in a heavily wooded area, the same cabin, but now it's completely empty. The door's open. There's no evidence that there was ever a fire there. Matter of fact, the hearth is cold, and nobody around. And boom, scene 2 starts. So, and where I'm going with this and explaining it to you, you know, if you guys get to the point, because sometimes playing one system, it might get a little boring to you, and to spice things up a little bit, it's a solo RPG. Don't be afraid to sit down and look at a couple of different RPG systems and say, you know, this might be cool if I was, you know, I really like this from this game system. I like the way that perhaps this skill system works with this. don't be afraid to mix and match those and put them together. Build yourself a unique game system for you to sit down. Now, I've been having a lot of fun with this. Unfortunately, this week I haven't had the chance to play it like I really wanted to. I want to get back into it. Currently, as it moved along, they ran into an encounter. And of course, it was a humanoid monstrous encounter, and they couldn't believe what they were seeing, but they did defeat it. One of my team members was wounded. They retreated back to the cabin, forgot to cover their tracks. At that point, they had other creatures pick up their tracks, trace them back to the cabin. They had to fend those off. As one was dying, the scientist was able to discern from this thing, because one of the skills I took was the occult. So he recognized somewhat of his language from ancient languages of long ago, and figured out that they were no longer on Earth. They were on a completely different plane of existence. And on that night that they appeared, a dark, evil lord had opened up a portal gateway that went awry. Something didn't go right in the spell. And they just happened to be at that place and moment in time in the Arctic that this rift came through, opened up the timeline, and whew, they were taken through. So now where were they at? They got one injured team member. They got a limited amount of ammunition. They are from modern times, so they're used to technology, firearms, and all the great things that we enjoy. And they have just been hurled back to a world that things that they were told don't exist are quite real and are trying to kill them. And there's no technology. It is medieval era. Pretty cool stuff. So that's something I came up with on my own, threw it together. And I'd like to encourage you guys to do the same. I want you to get something out of this channel. When you watch my videos, I'd like you to, to feel like you're getting something out of them that you can utilize with your games. And that's one of the things that, to me, is interesting about RPGing is you are really only limited by your imagination. And just like I've said in many videos, and I'm going to say it again, your player's guide, your DM's guide, whether it doesn't matter what system you're playing, those are just tools. Those are just references. Now, you can play the game as the way it was designed to the T, and if you enjoy it, that's awesome. But since you're playing a solo RPG, you can also edit that game for your playing style, for you to enjoy, because it's all about you. It's all about sitting down and enjoying an RPG game. Now, to a certain extent, with any RPG system out there, you will have to do that a little bit, because if you think about it, most of these games are designed for 3, 4 to however many players. So going into it, you automatically know you're going to have to make a few adjustments to the game in order to make it work anyways. But the biggest ingredient you need to make any RPG work, any in the world, is imagination. Biggest thing. Where to get the imagination? Last video that I did, I posted that. I came up with this on a whim from sitting and watching old episodes of X-Files. And that sounds like, it would be really cool to be able to do something like that. And now, granted, it's not X-Files. It's not about two detectives running around solving weird cases. But it does, bridge that gap between supernatural, myth, modern times, and everything convened together. And now my characters are going to have to stuck in this world, and they're going to have to try to find a way to either get back to their time, or they're going to have to learn how to adapt to their new surroundings and become medieval. And their success will be proper caffeination. Now, as I say in all my videos, and I sincerely mean it from my heart, guys, anytime I show you a product, I'm not endorsing anybody. I don't get paid for anything. These are cool things that I find, and when I see them, I know a lot of you guys are like-minded like me, and I figure, you know, I'm going to pass this along to help you guys out. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart for being part of the solo RPG community. I am so glad that so many people out there have really engaged with my idea. And, you know, when I started this channel, I didn't think anybody would engage with it. I figured the majority of people would just scoff at me. And it's really, really humbling to know that that many people out there enjoy my videos. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart so much. Thank you guys for all your support. And from that, the one thing I have to tell you, my friends, is to go forth and game in solo RPG. And I think I'm going to do a video, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about, because I did have a comment about world building. And as far as world building, and talk a little bit more about building your own emulator. And I think you'll find if you build your own emulator that details it to your playing style, your games, and what you enjoy to do, you're going to have all the fun. That's where it's at. Mythic is a great system, but it's a tool. But if you design your own, it's yours, it's detailed to what you like, your gaming styles, and how much better can it get than that? I mean, that's just excellent gaming right there. So, with that being said, my friends, artichoke dip, I'm going to retire. I'm going to have me another cup of coffee, and I'm going to probably play another scene in my little RPG over here. And I am going to definitely sit down and write up a script for a solo RPG to be able to show you guys and run it through it. And if you own Mythic, please check out those areas that I showed you on the Mythic. And if you do, I will give you those page numbers again before I go. And they are pages 26 for the fate chart and pages 99 for the conversion tables to Mythic. With that being said, my friends, secret to gaming and life is proper caffeination. And game on, my friends. I'll see you next time. Thank you. From the bottom of my heart. Honestly, guys, thank you. Now it's time to go because I got to go to work. No, you need to go. Because I got to go to work. I got to go to work. Got to go to work. Work. I don't want to go to work. I want a game. But got to go to work. But I want a game. Got to go to work, but I want a game.